Good morning. I'm Louie Feigenbutz, and this is my co-host,
Clayton.
and this is the debut episode of Inside Scoop. We'd like to welcome our first guest. We're very excited to have you on the show. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Malcolm Norrington. I'm the principal at Cerrito High School, and thank you for having me as your first guest. I'm honored.
Yeah, no, super excited to get into today's episode. A lot of great talking points that we want to get into. First, we want to start it off on what are your first impressions of El Cerrito High?
I love it. I think it's a great school. I think you all are great, you as students. I think the staff is awesome. Parents are the parents. They're awesome. It's just a great community school, and I just want to build on what's already been built upon prior to me and make sure we just continue to make this school as great as it can be. So there are things that I want to improve upon, and then there are things that are already great that I don't even need to touch. So.
Yeah. What are some of those main things that you're interested in improving?
I want to make sure that campus is safe, and also I want to make sure that the student body knows that this is your school. Like, we're here to serve and support you, but this is your school, and I want you all to have ownership and connection, and I want you all to embrace it and make this what you want it to be. I want this to be a core of the community so that everything that happens here extends out to the community, but also the community are able to come into the school and honor it and bring programs and use our facilities, of course, appropriately and things of the sort. But my main thing is to make sure that when you all come here every day, you can kind of just let all the rest of the stress just off of your shoulders and be inside these proverbial four walls and navigate and enjoy your teenage years, your high school years.
Yeah. And yeah, as you said, we have faced a lot of issues in the past when it comes to gun violence, sexual assault, and fights among students. How do you plan to attack those issues as one of the big glaring holes in El Cerrito's programs?
Yeah, so unfortunately those types of incidents aren't unique to El Cerrito High School. That doesn't mean or diminish the occurrence of them here, how we feel about them. I want to say I have to push back a little bit on classifying the incidents that have occurred as a lot of gun violence. There have been incidents in the past that I'm aware of. I'm not negating that at all. But overall, we have a safe environment. But, we want to make sure we're identifying students on campus. We want to make sure we create a space where you all are able to come to us anonymously, and that's any trusted adult on campus, and let us know, hey, Malcolm Norrington over there is thinking about cutting school or has said some inappropriate things or whatever the case may be, so we can address those. Anyone that's experiencing any type of inappropriate behavior, whether they're engaging in it or they're the victim or recipient of it, we're going to address it. We're going to investigate it. We're going to determine what the outcome is, and we'll go from there. No one should be subject to any type of violence, whether it's with or without a gun. No one should be subject to any type of assault, sexual or otherwise. There shouldn't be any type of harassment, verbal, physical, sexual, gender, racial, none of that. And there shouldn't be any fights on campus. I understand fights on campuses have been happening since the invention of schools, but we have to teach you all how to navigate this terrain and how to have a better and give you all the tools to engage with each other in a more appropriate manner. Fighting is not the way to go. We understand that it's going to happen, but we're going to do all we can to reduce it by providing you this safe space, but also the tools to address it.
What made you come to El Cerrito High School? What led you here?
So I'll admit I was perfectly fine where I was. I was at Foothill High School in Pleasanton. Just an awesome team, awesome students, just like here, an awesome school environment. And in my graduate program, in my doctoral program, I met a gentleman that works for the district. And we were talking and found out what I do and asked if I was interested in, being a principal. I'm like, yeah, if the right opportunity comes along. And he mentioned West Contra Costa School District. And I was like, I'm close to home. Why would I travel that far? I knew I was ready for the next step of my leadership, but I was like, I don't think so. I'm not ready to make that move. So he pressed a little bit more, so I looked into it. I was like, let me apply. and I applied, and I got an interview, and I was like, oh, wait, this is like really happening.
Yeah.
And that went well, and then there was a second interview. And what happened is that in interviewing with the district, I found them to be very supportive.
Mm-hmm.
I found it to be very welcoming, and I found that they were very upfront and honest about some of the challenges that were going on, but also some of the successes in the district and at El Cerrito in particular. And then I just kind of meditated and prayed on it, and asked to be shown which way to go, and it just felt like the right step. I talked to people that I trust, my wife and my kids and friends, and it was like, yeah, this is the right decision for me. And El Cerrito felt like the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't seeking a principal job, so this job found me, and I found it. So it's mutually beneficial, but I wanted it as much as they wanted me, and that felt really good.
Yeah, well, no, that's awesome. And take us through a little bit more of that interview process. What kind of questions were they asking? What was that like?
Well, I mean, they just asked those general questions. How are you prepared for this position? Just a little bit about your background. Then they get a little bit more about your leadership and your leadership style, and there may be some scenarios that they present to you and see how you handle it. There may be different stations you go to with different panels. So it's an intense interview. And then once that occurs, there's an interview with the superintendent, and you discuss it's an opportunity for him to get to know me. It was an opportunity for him to get to know me, for me to get to know him, and for him to also find out a little bit about what makes me tick, my way of thinking. And obviously it went well. I'm here, so yeah, it was intense, which I think is necessary. They were not going to just settle. I know that they were not going to settle, and that was important because that was communicated. So they really want to make sure that the schools in West Contra Costa are led by people that are confident and competent, and that are supportive, and that they can support. And the district is doing that. So
I'm definitely glad to hear that.
yeah, me too.
What position did you have at the?
At Foothill, I was the vice principal.
Okay,
Yeah.
so is that like a big jump from vice principal to principal?
The level of responsibility is, because as the principal, you're, for lack of a better term, the head of the school.
Right.
As a vice principal, you're supporting the head of the school. I was very blessed to work with Sebastian Bull, who's the principal over at Foothill High School, and the team over there, Amber Carrion, Jennifer Friesen, Walter Valencia, Miss Carrion left. But I was very blessed because Mr. Bull gave us a lot of trust, a lot of latitude, and a lot of responsibility. So my first year as a vice principal, I felt like I was drinking water out of a fire hose. It was just everything coming at me. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, it was a lot. By year 2, I found a stride, a way of operating, and then it was much more manageable. But that experience prepared me for this. I didn't step into this feeling like I'm drinking water out of a fire hose. I feel very well prepared and equipped to deal with the operations here, the culture, the climate, and the students and staff, because I did so much of that at Foothill. I think that's the vice principal's job. I think a vice principal's responsibility is to take as much off the principal's plate as possible so that they can run the school and support them in their duties as well. And I really embodied that. So.
Yeah. And coming from a vice principal perspective, I mean, you have multiple people you're working with at that level. So, I mean, I'm sure going from there to the principal position, I mean, it must have been different. Do you feel more alone as a principal, or do you still feel like you have all those people supporting you?
That's a great question. Now I feel like I have all those people supporting me because we're a team. And so I'm developing a team concept and a team culture. I believe in shared decision making. At the end of the day, it all stops with me, but I make sure I engage my team and enlist them in decisions. I keep them informed. I believe in being transparent and open and communicative. So I'm not working in a silo. I'm not working in isolation at all. I involve the community when appropriate. I involve the students when appropriate. But I make sure first and foremost that our number one objective and top of mind is what's best for you all, right? What's best for the students. And from there we make our decisions, but we do so collaboratively. And that's how I was raised as an administrator, if you will. So that's what I bring here. I'm not saying if it was here before or not, but I know that's how I have formed and approached my team, and will continue to do so. I mean, Ms. Bloomer, Ms. Zing, Mr. Grant, they're all great, and they all have their various areas that they're experts in, and we all continue to grow together individually and as a team. So it's just working out great. You know, getting to know one another, getting to know our style. You know, there's some things that change, but that's for the good, right?
Yeah. You just mentioned everyone having their own different style. What do you specifically, as an individual, bring to El Cerrito?
That's a great. You guys got some great questions. Good job. I'm a service leader, and you know, so I believe that my job is to serve and support you all, and the parents, and the staff that I support and oversee. My job is to serve and support you all, and it keeps me humble. It keeps me with the lens of a perspective of what is best for students, but also it allows me to utilize my perspectives, my lenses of my different positions that I've been in before. So my positionality in this particular respect is important, but I bring all of my different positionalities into this, right? Because that intersection is important. I'm a black male, former teacher, former police officer. I was an actor, right? Raised by a single mother in Los Angeles and in Chicago. Went to college, master's, getting my doctorate. Like all of these different positionalities I bring to the table, but I do so in a form of serving. And then I'm able to make informed decisions, right? I'm a systems thinker, I'm a systems leader. I believe in the system and looking at the system. I believe in moving slowly and thinking slowly. I'm not coming in here making these sweeping changes because I need to see what's going on. And I believe, like I said, you first, and supporting our teachers who are that first level of contact for you all. Like, so I got to make sure I'm here to serve.
Yeah, and going back to serving, what really brought you into the teaching, you know, what really brought you into this field?
So I was a teacher. I started teaching kind of out of college. I was teaching at a non-public school. So it was a school for students supported with IEPs that were physically, sexually, and or emotionally abused. And they attended school, but they lived across the street. All of them were they were either wards of the court, or they were in foster care, or they were out of foster care and they were unhoused. So they lived across the street from the school. There was a residence across the street. And you know, one morning they'll come into school and I'll be like, good morning. I'd be like, good morning, Mr. Norrington. And the next morning they come into school, I'll be like, good morning. They'd be like, you know, get away from me. You know, so it was because they were dealing with quite a bit of trauma. So I started off teaching and I loved it. And at the time I was coaching youth basketball because I always wanted to give back to the community. So I was coaching little kids in basketball. And I had a practice going on, and I met a guy who was a basketball coach at a private school, and he asked me if I was interested in coaching his freshman team. I was like, yeah. So I coached there, and then I got a job as a teacher at a public school in Los Angeles Unified School District, teacher and coach. And I just continued on. Got married, had my first child, my daughter. She's a school counselor, by the way, now. So that's pretty awesome. Runs in the family. And I need to make more money. And I was talking to some guys, and there were some police officer friends of mine that I met as a teacher and as coaching in the neighborhood. And I decided to become a police officer. And I was like, it's another way to get back to the community. I always wanted to be a police officer. I was like, this is one way to make sure I never get arrested. I was always afraid of being arrested as a black male, just being, you know, oh, he's 6 feet tall, 180 pounds, dark skin, short hair, like that general identification, and being falsely accused of something. So I did that. I loved it. But then I fell back into education because I got tired of being reactive as opposed to proactive. So as a police officer, something happens, then you respond. Usually, 95% of the time. And then you're dealing with situations, but you're usually trying to determine if a crime occurred.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's that way of thinking just waited on me for a long time. And I, had injuries and surgeries, and I'm like, it's time to give this up and go back into teaching. While I was a police officer, I got my master's in education, so I knew I was always going to go back. I was a rookie. And then I started back teaching in middle school and high school, and I always wanted to go into administration because just the leadership qualities I have, and matriculated to leadership as administrator, and now I'm here. So, yeah, so I was a teacher, police officer, then a teacher.
Yeah. So as you just said, you were a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any interesting stories about stressful or dangerous situations you were put in that you could share?
I mean, I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I'd say, well, there was a stressful one. I just remember getting off work, and I was leaving, and a lady drove by. She knew me from the community, and she's like, "Officer Norrington, there's a guy over there that just crashed into the front of a house." And so I get there, and his truck is turned on its side. It's on the passenger side, is on the ground, and he's out the truck, and the front end of the truck is in somebody's living room, and he's laying back, and I had just received some reports of this gangbanger in the neighborhood that was 211. He was robbing students in particular. And they had a description. He had this tattoo on his stomach. And I go up, and he's on the ground. I'm like, oh wow. He's on the ground. He's out the car, and he was just injured terribly. And called 911, and he ended up expiring. He died there. But it was the guy. He had the tattoo on his stomach, and that was tough because he kind of died with me right there.
Yeah.
And there have been incidents where, that were stressful, where I've been involved in physical altercations. There are incidents where, had to chase people. There are incidents where I had 22-hour days because I just had a big arrest and had to deal with the paperwork and everything like that. So, but there were incidents where, I was able to support someone that needed some help, give back property, catch someone that violated someone in a physical manner or violated their home, and that made them happy. It's never a good time putting someone into a cell, but, and I worked with people that were addicted to drugs, and that was always tough and stressful. In Los Angeles, just a lot going on, so it was tough. And I worked with schools, so it was a lot going on with kids. But I worked patrols, so I worked streets, and I had various responsibilities. So it was tough, but I learned a lot. So I wouldn't change it for the world.
I mean, mentally, it must be a lot. How do you really kind of deal with that?
Yeah, no. I like to work out. That's my time where I just put my headphones on and I just let go of everything. So I try to work out every day. I'm older, so it keeps me in some form of health and shape, and keeps me healthy, I should say. But I like to work out. That's my way of kind of de-stressing. Do a lot of reading, but working out, I would say, is the main thing, because that's the time where I just don't think about anything. But if you will, working out. Sometimes I may have taken a meeting from the gym, or I may think of something. I have to send an email if there's something of emergent nature, but I try to use that time for me.
Yeah.
Lately it's been in the morning. I've been working out at 5 a.m., go home, change, and then I'll come here. But if I have time, it'll be after work, but I try to do it every day.
What would you like to say to the people of El Cerrito who will be listening into this podcast? Students, staff, is there any messages that you would want to send out to them?
Yeah, I'd like to say that we are a great community. This is a great school. Let's continue to get to know one another and develop trust. and let's make this school what we know it can be. And I think it's already great, but we can make it so much more wonderful. Again, my number one priority is making sure that all of you have a safe learning environment and all of you feel supported and loved and know that we are here to serve you. So no question is too small. No concern is too small. And lastly, if there's anything that you need, come to us. We may be able to support you. If we can't, we'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
So,
Well, thank you, Mr. Norrington.
You're welcome.
It was,
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure interviewing you.
yeah, it was a pleasure being interviewed by you all. Y'all are awesome. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.